My sister and her lover tried to frame me for theft at a family reunion, but I exposed them with perfect proof and now they are disowned. I'm a 29-year-old man, and if there's anything I've learned from growing up in a blended, often tumultuous household, it's that family can become your worst adversaries under the wrong circumstances. My father remarried when I was 10, adding a stepsister into my life who, for the most part, ignored me. Then she turned into a manipulative torment. Fast forward to adulthood, and we barely acknowledged each other's presence at family gatherings. She'd arrive late, cling to her own circle, and shoot me glares whenever our eyes met. Years passed. We each found our ways, rarely crossing paths, except for the mandatory holiday get-togethers. My father was pushing a big family reunion this year, something like a celebration of roots. Everyone was invited to the old house. I dreaded it a bit. My stepsister, by now in her late 20s, had a new boyfriend. I'd heard questionable whispers about their questionable finances, but I tried not to dwell on it. I intended to go, keep my head down, enjoy the barbecue, then slip away. My father had insisted, so out of courtesy I showed up. Things started fine. Relatives milled around the backyard, kids racing between tables, older folks reminiscing about past reunions. My father beamed, hugging everyone. I was sipping a soda in a corner, relieved no drama had struck yet. Then my stepsister and her lover arrived, sporting matching flashy outfits. They breezed in, made a show of greeting people, ignoring me, which was typical. But something about the smug expression on her face set off an uneasy flicker in my gut. She'd always had that cunning glint in her eyes, like she was hatching a plan. At first, it seemed she was all about flaunting her new beau. They circled around, telling people about some lofty business dream they had, boasting how they'd soon be raking it in. A few folks humored them, nodding politely. I, on the other hand, excused myself to help with setting up extra chairs. The last thing I wanted was to get sucked into her self-aggrandizing narrative. But trouble erupted mid-afternoon. There was a sudden commotion near the living room. My father's prized watch, an heirloom from his father, someone older might have been father or an older relative, had apparently gone missing from its usual place on the mantel. People started rummaging around. My father was distressed, saying it was not only valuable, but deeply sentimental. Whispers of theft spread quickly among the relatives, tension rising. My father asked if anyone saw something suspicious. A hush fell as eyes darted around, unsure whom to suspect. To my shock, my stepsister's lover stepped forward, wearing a grave expression, and said he had reason to believe I took it. He claimed to have seen me lingering around the mantel, acting shifty. My stepsister joined in, gasping theatrically, adding that she'd noticed me slipping something into my pocket. My heart pounded with a mix of disbelief and anger. They were accusing me, pointing the finger in front of everyone, painting me as a thief of my father's treasured watch. Heads turned my way, some relatives looking confused, others suspicious. My father stared at me, wide-eyed, not wanting to believe it but not sure how to respond. I stammered, "That's a lie. I never touched that watch." My stepsister's lover put on a smug, righteous face, claiming he had no reason to lie. My stepsister nodded vigorously, as if outraged by my supposed crime. The entire reunion pivoted from cheerful to hostile in seconds. I tried to defend myself, stating I'd only been in the living room to move chairs, nowhere near the watch. But they insisted they saw me rummaging around. Meanwhile, the rest of the family murmured, unsure whose version to trust. Some looked at me with pity, others with suspicion. My father's confusion was evident. Did he trust his son or his stepdaughter's claims? I felt cornered, humiliated. My stepsister's face burned with vindictive triumph, like she'd planned this. All those years of her petty cruelty had escalated into framing me for theft at a family event. But I refused to crumble. I steadied my breath and declared, "I didn't do anything, and I can prove it." The mood was electric. My father tried to calm everyone, but chaos lingered. My stepsister pressed her advantage. "If you're innocent," she sneered, "why not let us check your car, your pockets? Maybe you stashed it." She cast me that haughty glare I recognized from childhood, the same expression she wore whenever she'd blamed me for her own mischief. Her lover chipped in, "We're not accusing you lightly. We just want the watch back." At that moment, I realized I needed a plan, something to dismantle their false allegations on the spot. My mind spun. Did I have any proof of my whereabouts? Something telling me I was never near the mantel. Then it struck me. I come in with a small dash cam running in my car earlier because I'd wanted to record some scenic footage for a personal project. The dash cam was also set to continuous loop even after I parked, capturing audio if within range. But that might not help inside the house. Or perhaps I'd used my phone at times, snapping photos or videos. Did it record any crucial timeline? I scrambled mentally for a more definitive approach. Suddenly, I remembered a newly installed home security system. My father had mentioned he'd put a discreet camera in the living room corner, aimed partly at the mantel to ensure no one messed with his valuables. He forgot to mention it to most people, but I'd seen the notice posted about surveillance in operation. My heart soared with hope. If that camera was active, it might show exactly who approached the mantel. I told my father, "You have that new security camera inside, right? Let's check the footage." A flicker of realization crossed his face. He'd been so frazzled by the missing watch that he'd forgotten. My stepsister's expression changed instantly, her confidence faltering. She stuttered something about how the camera might not be working. I jumped on that. "We won't know until we check, so let's see." The tension soared as father fetched his laptop to access the feed. My stepsister's lover tried to object, mumbling about invading privacy, but father brushed him off. Everyone in the living room grew quiet as father clicked through the recordings, searching for the relevant time. Finally, we found a video from the day's date. The screen showed people milling around the living room. I braced myself, scanning each second. My father advanced the footage, and then we saw it. My stepsister's lover moving toward the mantel, glancing around nervously. He picked up the watch, slipped it into a small bag, then hurried away. My stepsister soon arrived, whispering something to him, glancing side to side. They both left with smug smiles. A collective gasp spread through the group. My father's jaw dropped. My stepsister's face turned white as a sheet, her lover's expression twisted in panic. Meanwhile, I felt a surge of relief and righteous anger. This was the conclusive proof I needed, not just for my innocence, but to expose their malicious scheme. Some relatives exclaimed curses, others scolded my stepsister for stooping so low. Her mother, my stepmother, looked mortified, unless father's spouse is out of the pic, but I disclaimed that. The point is, everyone realized we'd almost pinned an innocent person for theft. My stepsister tried to stammer out an excuse. "That's not what it looks like." Her lover added, We wanted to keep it safe, thought someone else might steal it." But no one believed them. The footage clearly showed them looking around suspiciously, sneaking the watch away. And earlier, they pinned the blame on me so confidently. My father, trembling with anger, demanded they hand the watch back immediately. My stepsister's lover fished it out from his bag, trying to spin a story about planning to return it later. The family wasn't buying it. Tension soared, relatives hurling accusations. My father glared at them both, eyes brimming with disappointment. I could tell he was grappling with how his stepdaughter, a family member, could orchestrate such a vile frame-up. Seeing the plan unravel, my stepsister's lover tried to exit. My father blocked the door, telling him to stay put. Meanwhile, I dialed the local authorities. This wasn't just petty theft, but a deliberate attempt to ruin my reputation. Some relatives asked if that was necessary to call the police. I answered yes. If they were prepared to set me up, they had to face consequences. That might sound harsh, but after years of dealing with my stepsister's cruelty, I lost patience for her manipulations. When the cops arrived, my father explained the situation, showing them the footage. They questioned my stepsister and her lover, who sputtered half-baked excuses. The officers saw right through it. They placed them under suspicion of attempted theft and false accusations. My stepsister panicked, wailing, "He's our family. We never meant to harm him." The policeman frowned, unimpressed, referencing how they'd made direct claims against me that turned out to be lies. It felt surreal. My stepsister, the perennial bully, now facing real consequences for her entitlement. Her lover glowered at me, muttering that I'd pay for humiliating them. But the tide had turned fully in my favor. Even relatives who'd never liked me were outraged at her betrayal, insisting we press charges. My father gave a weary nod, the heartbreak etched on his face. The cops took statements, rummaging through the aftermath. My stepsister's meltdown was epic. Tears, screaming that she'd been framed by the camera. People rolled their eyes at the irony. She tried to fling blame on her lover, claiming it was all his idea. He shot back that she orchestrated everything, that he only followed her plan. The cops led them away for further questioning. Some relatives parted aside, shaking heads in disgust. My father was quiet, sadness radiating from him as he watched them go. I felt a pang of pity, but reminded myself how they'd nearly ruined me. Over the following days, the legal process kicked into gear. I gave my official statement. My father supplied the security footage to the police. The watch was returned to him, thankfully unharmed. My stepsister and her lover faced charges of attempted theft, plus potential defamation or false reporting if we pursued that angle. My father, furious, threatened to disown them if they didn't come clean and apologize. They refused to show remorse, instead doubling down with bizarre stories of just trying to protect the watch, or it was a prank gone wrong. The local prosecutor didn't buy it. Possibly they'd face fines or even a short sentence, time would tell. But the legal accountability was certain. Meanwhile, the rest of the family learned how close I came to being labeled a thief, someone who'd steal from his own father. Outraged, they turned on my stepsister, condemning her for stooping to such a scheme. Her lover's name became mud in the extended family. Soon, word spread that my father had declared them persona non grata, disowned, in more dramatic terms. They'd lost the family's trust completely. I felt a sense of closure, if a bit sad. I'd spent years enduring her hostility, never imagining she'd orchestrate a frame-up this severe. Now the entire family saw her for who she was, manipulative liar. My father, though devastated, thanked me for handling the situation calmly. I told him I appreciated the new security camera's existence. Without it, I'd have struggled to prove my innocence. He nodded solemnly, repeating how sorry he was for letting her animosity fester all these years. Some relatives suggested therapy for my stepsister, but she seemed unwilling to accept responsibility. She and her lover parted from the scene, presumably biding their time or searching for another manipulative scheme. In the short term, they faced legal scrutiny, potential fines, or worse. My father made good on his threat. He informed them they were cut from any inheritance or future family gatherings. My stepsister responded with nasty messages, calling me a snitch, vowing revenge. I saved those messages in case I needed further proof of her harassment. As for me, I resumed normal life, albeit with a renewed sense of self-confidence. Having once been the scapegoat for her pranks, I found satisfaction in standing my ground. She tried to frame me for theft, but ironically ended up indicted for her own crime. The comedic justice of it all didn't escape me. Over coffee with a cousin a few weeks later, we chuckled about how my stepsister's plan backfired so spectacularly, thanks to that single camera recording. My cousin called it poetic justice. At the next family get-together, my father's birthday a few months later, my stepsister was conspicuously absent. People asked, "Do we invite her?" My father said no. The memory of her final meltdown still fresh. No one objected. Some relatives whispered sympathy for my father, but collectively, we recognized this as the final line she'd crossed. Her illusions of grandeur, her petty bullying, and now a felony-level attempt to ruin me. She'd burned too many bridges to come back easily. Though the entire saga left me drained, it also purified the family atmosphere. Without her constant negativity, gatherings felt lighter. My father, regretful but relieved, began forging a closer bond with me, apologizing for how my stepsister's manipulations overshadowed my younger years. He pledged never again to doubt me so easily. I accepted that olive branch, though a sliver of sadness lingered for the sister I never truly had. If only she hadn't grown into such a schemer. In the end, the story's moral was painfully clear. Some people's entitlement leads them to shocking acts, even framing their own family. My stepsister discovered that her manipulative streak ran into a hard stop when faced with real evidence and the law. Facing potential jail time, she found herself disowned by the father who used to protect her. And me, the once little brother she used to torment, stood vindicated. Our father's watch returned, my innocence proven, and her attempt to frame me collapsing under incontrovertible proof. Perhaps somewhere she's cursing my name, biding her time for another trick. But the entire family's eyes are open now. If she ever tries a new con, she won't find an easy mark among us. The relief I feel is immense, overshadowing any sympathy I might have had. Because in the end, she was the one who spun the web of lies, and the truth inevitably caught her.